So for students who maybe haven't thought about doing research or thought about doing an honors class or program, what are the benefits of doing something like that while you're a student?
Uh, I think the benefits are multifold. For one, when you do research, it kind of gives you more ownership over your own learning, and we find that students, especially when they present their research, get much more confident with public speaking and see themselves as experts. Additionally, it's if you're taking a class that you're interested in, but the topic you are interested in, we're not going to be covering for more than a week. This is an opportunity to explore something that you care about, do research on a topic that's of your interest, and to sort of fulfill your own interests. Of course, it is a great thing for your resume to be able to talk to employers about and say, show them what, that you are sort of serious, you're willing to do additional work, it's self-directed, so it shows that you have more independence. And then if you're thinking of going to graduate school, the fact that you have done even H designation and of course an honors thesis speaks very highly about your readiness to join a graduate program.
Absolutely. Seems like it could really help you stand out in a lot of ways and hone some interests that you may have beyond just what classes are being offered. So great opportunity for students. I was wondering if our student panelists wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about your experiences either with H designated courses and the honors program so far, or just the honors program so far if you didn't take any H designated courses. But anything you could tell us so our students get an idea of what that might be like would be really helpful. And we can start with anybody. Maybe Courtney, do you want to start?
Sure. So I've actually taken both H designation courses and the honors classes. I did Core 101 with Dr. Terry. I did an H designation course with him, and that was really fun. I got to branch outside, look at other resources, things like that to kind of expand what was being taught in that. And that was really helpful in my freshman year to go a little bit further than the rest of my classmates. And then being in the honors program so far and taking the classes, I'm a biology major, as I told before, so I'm doing my research in biology, and I'm the only science person in it as of right now. So it's interesting to get that different perspective from everyone else, because I hear biologists talking every day. So when we have our meetings, it's really nice to get together and talk about stuff from different perspectives.
Very cool. Do you know yet broadly the topic of what your thesis is going to be?
Yeah, it's about this protein that is in cilia, which is found in sperm, algae. It's found in your lungs, pretty much anywhere in the body. So I'm looking at the stability within those structures and whether or not this one protein, FAP93, is involved in it.
Very, very cool. Awesome. Okay, Milo, do you want to share with us next?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've also both done H designations, and then I'm also currently doing my honors project. And with those H designations, like the way that I knew that like I needed to like go in and to do that was because I kept finding myself staying after class with my professors, just like constantly, like Dr. Terry and Dr. Prince, and like I'd always be talking with them for upwards of like 20 minutes. And like, if I'm willing to like have all these conversations with them after the fact, like why not just create a designated space where I can go and see them, monthly, like every once in a while, and like just have the opportunity to like let those conversations ride and go out in full, and let there be like additional reading to supplement them. So really, like the H designation was mostly just an opportunity for me to like become closer with these professors and to just understand them more, and also just like add more context I was already very passionate about in my literature and philosophy classes. So I had one H designation in like deconstructive literary theory and like a literary theory course. And so we just got to read like lots of other cool theory, Dr. Terry and I. And then the other course was in my early modern philosophy class, where we studied the philosopher George Berkeley and just went on our own rabbit holes there. But that was just a great opportunity to spend time with these professors and get to know them better, and like really establish a relationship with them outside of the classroom in a way that was a bit more formal, as opposed to just like me like stopping and saying like, hey, what's up? So we can have like more of like a motivating factor behind our conversations and get some more productive with them. And so now I'm doing my honors thesis with Dr. Terry as my chair. And I'm doing it on, it's focused around the writer Virginia Woolf, particularly her text titled The Waves, and also, which I have right here on my desk. I have lots of books on my desk. And also a text titled Moments of Being, which is a bunch of autobiographical writings. And what we are doing, or what I'm doing, is I'm essentially using the tools of philosophers, particularly 19th century philosophy, like existentialist philosophy, and applying those to this literary text and attempting to interpret it from like a philosophical lens, particularly seeing which ways it functions as an existentialist text. So that's essentially what I'm up to.
Very cool. So you're getting to combine the two academic interest areas that you have. That's awesome. Perfect. And Nairi, do you want to share with us as well?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a little bit different than Courtney and Milo. I actually didn't take an H designated course before I applied to the honors program. Personally, for me, I just was coming out of high school and like doing like AP and IB. I was just a little bit tired of like doing extra in depth for a minute. So I kind of like chose to step back a little bit for a minute. And yeah, I think, of course, H designated courses, if you have something that you're really passionate about, you should definitely go ahead and do that, because I do think it's a great opportunity to start getting that background in research. But also just know that if you decide a little bit later, like me, that you still want to do honors, you can still get started in it without having any H designated courses. And that said, joining the honors program has been really interesting because I'm getting to learn a lot, not only from Dr. Shrikhande, but also from my professors in my area that I'm studying, which is history. And then also from other students who have already taken H designated courses, and kind of like what Courtney was talking about, just being able to hear from people in other disciplines that you wouldn't normally get to hear from. So all of that kind of helped me like get it together in terms of like deciding that I do want to go to grad school, and that's why I joined the honors program. And that led me to my thesis, which is to discuss the evolution of the portrayal of slavery in museums in the southern United States. So just tracking how that sort of changed from about 1920 to kind of where we are now and where it's still going. So it's definitely been helpful having this big community to get you started.
Very cool. So super different, theses all around. We had a question in the Q&A about, are there certain majors that are more suited for research, or can it be done in any major? And you guys all have different majors, but it sounds like you all have the ability to still conduct, interesting thesis projects and figure out your interests. So it sounds like it's not really suited for any one particular group, but can be done in any way. Is that right?
Absolutely. And if you look at the current composition, I think this year, the rising seniors are the largest class of honors students I have had since I became director a couple of years ago. And we have a wide range of disciplines from English, music, sociology, history, economics, biology, and I might be missing a few, but any discipline. And I also wanted to add, as we're talking about disciplines, that there is the option of doing for your honors thesis what we call a creative option. So 2 years ago, or last year, we had two seniors who were both theater majors, a double major in theater and communication, and both decided to write short plays as their honors thesis. And previous years also, we've had students do that. English students have written short stories, novellas as their thesis. So that is the creative option. That's also something you can do with honors.
All right, so we have a few questions in the Q&A that I will go ahead and get to now. So somebody asked, how do we indicate that we would like to take one of our courses at the honors level? So if they are interested in an H-designated class, how did they get started in that process?
So for that, the first step would be to approach their professor and make sure that the professor is willing to do an honors designation. And then on our honors website, there is a form that they would have to fill out that gives the details of where they would provide the details of what their project is. That form comes to me, and there is also an honors committee. We review all the applications to see that the work being proposed is honors level. Sometimes most often we rarely reject somebody. More often we might make some suggestions for maybe modifying a project, or we need more clarity in terms of what exactly the student will do. And then they will hear from me saying that they have been accepted to do the honors designation. And after that, they set up times with their professor that they're working with to meet, and deadlines for when the projects are due and so on.
Okay.
And all of this happens in the first, so the deadline to submit the honors designation is the third week of classes, after classes begin by the third week. And this year we have a shortened semester, so it is going to, we have to get, you want to get accepted quickly so that you can start working on the projects that you want to do.
Great. So once they get here, that's when they would actually start that process, it sounds like.
Yes. Yes.
Great. Okay. Let's see. What does the workload consist of? Would you say it is harder compared to other classes? So we can clearly tell that it depends on what projects you're doing. But in terms of the additional work that has been added on for you all with doing honors classes, how would you describe that commitment so far?
I'd probably say I wouldn't say it's like harder or easier than some of my other classes. It's just a different kind of harder. I am used to biology classes where we're in the lab. It's a lot of face time. And even though there is a lot of going in by yourself and doing experiments, there's still the sense of being around other people. And so I know this last semester was a lot more difficult for me personally because it's a lot of working on your own and figuring out things and setting your own deadlines. So I'd say that's probably the most challenging part for me, is just staying like on track versus being in the classroom and having these deadlines that the professors make for you. So that's probably what I'd say is like the harder part. It's just a different kind of difficult.
Definitely. And it's a lot of it is having that sort of independence, and also making sure, because like once you get into like actually doing like your honors thesis or doing the honors program in junior year, hopefully you can have like honed some like more research skills by then, or at least just like practice doing research, and like in very small ways. It'll just make, I think, coming into the honors program a bit easier. But you don't have to have done research before, but research is just such a substantial part of it. So you'll want to have like engaged with the library a bit beforehand, and just, get to know the librarians a bit more, so you feel comfortable going up to them and asking them, maybe like, hey, I have no idea what I'm talking about, help me out here. But yeah, or like accessing the library website online.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think it's actually really fun. Like, as long as you choose something that you're really passionate about, I don't think that it becomes something that's like really hard. Doing an honors thesis means that it's something that you've been really looking into and that you're really like interested in, hopefully. So just by virtue of that, it kind of makes it like more fun, like some other classes, than just like a required class or something like that. So in that sense, I think it can be easier.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on one thing that Nairi said. As students start on the thesis in their junior year with me in a class we call Honors 301. So they're coming from different disciplines, and I'm not the disciplinary expert, but what I encourage every student who's doing honors is to choose a topic that interests you, because then you are going to invest a lot of time in it. And if you enjoy that topic, then you enjoy the additional work that you're doing for it.
Makes sense. Okay, so we have a question. What are the requirements for H-designated classes in the honors program? And we already talked a little bit about the H-designated process and how those projects can vary. But in terms of the honors program, are there requirements for students to be accepted into the official honors program?
Yes, there are. So from a GPA point of view, a student has to have at least 3.3 overall and 3.5 GPA in their major. And there is an application. They fill out an application, write an essay talking about why they want to do honors, and give some indication of what they might be interested in research. And they also would need to have a faculty member who they have kind of tapped, who would be able to work with them. so that we know that there is a professor at Oglethorpe who will be able to work with them on the topic of their interest. And then the applications are reviewed by the honors committee.
All right, here's another question. Does your research ever take you outside of Oglethorpe, maybe to conduct interviews, further research, etc.?
I feel bad making Courtney start every time, so I'll go. Yes, it definitely can. So like I mentioned before, I'm doing work with museums, so that automatically means that I'm going to museums. And it kind of goes back to that last question of like whatever you're passionate about. So if you want to have the type of project where you're getting out there and talking to people, you can make it like that. Versus if you want to like deep dive into books or like keep it to yourself, like you can do that type of thing. It all is just kind of like tailored to you. So you can definitely get off campus and like do interviews and all that kind of stuff.
And I would add to that we have a small budget for honors students. So expenses like if Nairi were to travel to museums or have to go meet somebody, or even just materials students might need for the lab, or which if we don't have that, or books, we do have an honors budget, and the students, every honors student will be able to have access to that budget for research related purposes. We also encourage students to attend conferences and to present their work at conferences outside Oglethorpe and provide some financial resources for that.
That's what I was going to say is my professor, Dr. Alford, we're planning on, hopefully, fingers crossed, going to a microbiology conference in December, as well as I work with the labs over at Emory. They have some confocal lenses, which I get to image with, which is exciting, but it gets you out and connected, which is really nice. So.
Awesome. All right. If you don't finish your thesis, will you be penalized? So if you start a thesis and you're unable to finish, what would happen?
The only penalty is you don't graduate with honors, but it doesn't have a penalty on the rest of your work or your GPA in general. You do get a grade for your honors classes. So if you are in the honors class registered and you haven't completed the work in that particular course, your grade would be affected, and you don't get to graduate with honors. And since the question has been asked, I wanted to also say this about the H designation, that there is no penalty for not, if you decide to, and this has happened, if a student says, I would like to do an H designation, and as the semester proceeds, gets very busy and is not able to do the H designation work, there is no penalty for not finishing it. They just don't earn the honors designation.
Okay. Does taking honors designated classes make it more likely that you'll be accepted into the honors program in your junior year?
I think I would say it strengthens your application. We do ask that question in the honors application, have you taken any H designation classes? So that does strengthen your case. But as Nairi pointed out, for some students may not, may have already done a lot at the high school level, or are not sure that's something they want to do. And it's only when they finish their sophomore year and they might take a class that has them do some research that they kind of begin to realize that research is something they like. So we don't want to limit honors program to students who have done H designations, which means that even if you haven't done it, you can still apply and you're still eligible.
We have a couple of questions that are in the realm of balancing honors with other things. So without getting too specific, one says, is it realistic to do a double major while in the honors program? Another says, would you recommend student athletes be a part of the honors program? So obviously you all can't necessarily speak to all of those things, but in terms of balancing the workload with other things that you have going on, do you have any advice or insight into how students should think about these things?
I think the students are best positioned to answer this. I know Courtney is an athlete, Milo is a musician, Nairi does a lot of other things. So, but I have seen from my side as a faculty member that the more students have, the more they're able to do. We often have honor students who are also singers, who are doing theater, so they have other interests and are still, it means that you have to manage your time really well, but it's doable. But I think the students should talk about this.
Definitely echoing what Dr. Shrikhande was saying. I run cross country and do track and field. I'm on a couple of different clubs, so there's definitely a lot going on. I was taking 20 credit hours this last semester, but at the end of it all, I survived. So it is doable. You just have to be really careful about your time management. You do have to make hard decisions about whether or not you want to go and hang out with friends or go out, or if you need to work on your work. So I guess in conclusion, it's if you want it, you'll be able to do it.
And also your professors will be very understanding too. If you're like, hey, look, like if you have like an essay due the next day, or like maybe not the next day, give them a bit more warning than that. But if you have an essay due coming up, like absolutely, and you have tons of research you have to get done as well, just like talk to them. Like everyone on campus is willing to have a conversation with you. Like that, like no professor is working against you. Everyone is working with you. But it really helps if you give people notice, rather that's Dr. Shrikhande, like about like when you're going to be getting in new research, or if it's with your professor about like getting an exam done. It's just be communicative, because yeah, I'm also busy and all over the place and scattered, but I have to like remind myself like who do I need to talk to, and like, so yeah.
Okay, let's see. We kind of already answered this one, but if you have anything else you'd like to add, we can always throw it in there as well. How did you all come to the conclusion that you wanted to be in the honors program?
I'll go first this time. Everyone else is bitten the bullet, so I'll dive in. Just being incredibly passionate about the subject, and also the professors that I'm working with, just like by now at this point, like as a rising senior, like I've taken a bunch of classes with them, and I love the way that they teach and the way that they think, and that the opportunity to work alongside them just immediately makes me a better, not only like a better student, but just like a better person interacting in the world. And introduces me to just like very incredibly interesting texts. So a lot of it is just sort of a passionate academic drive, alongside the idea of like, like maybe I could take this further, like maybe that like crazy idea that I have in class, like I could actually like dive into that and poke it and turn it into something that, can maybe spill into grad school, etc. But fundamentally, it's just a way to engage with something that you're already passionate about. So yeah.
So I was actually doing an REU, which is a research experience for undergraduates, with Dr. Elford last summer, and I found that I loved working with Celia a lot. I liked being in the lab. I liked researching. And so it was kind of this like natural conclusion where it's like, okay, well, I can either finish the summer and get a great research experience out of it, or I could go further and turn it into an honors thesis. And I do want to go to grad school. I am trying to get my PhD. That's like end goal. So this was kind of the next logical step for me to kind of practice that and prepare me for grad school.
Yeah, kind of the same reasons. I decided that I want to go to grad school, so that seemed like the next logical thing to do. And then it's just also like when you're in college, I think that you should take advantage of every possible opportunity that comes your way. So I had done internships, I had a job like related to what I want to do outside of campus, and I was like, what else will make me like the best applicant possible after I leave college? And so I decided that was doing an honors thesis. So that's kind of how I got there.
Awesome. Okay. Somebody asks, do you think that the honors program would be beneficial to law school? I'm going to say yes. I think it would be beneficial to any graduate program that you're interested in, because doing honors is never a bad thing. It's always going to look good for you. I don't know if anybody else has anything specific they want to offer, but I would say yes.
No, I agree with Kelly. again, it shows your ability to take on more challenging work, and that's what graduate schools, want to see, that you are a person who has the discipline and the academic capacity to do advanced work. And honors is all of that.
One thing that we haven't mentioned directly, I know people have talked about it, especially Milo, kind of indirectly, but one thing you need when you're going to grad school is recommendation letters from your professors. And the more they know about you and your ability to do work and the specific things they can talk about, the more helpful they're going to be for you than a generic, the student was in my class. So, honors is a great way to connect with professors and show them what you're capable of. And so anything you can do to help build those relationships is helpful. Mary asks, what is the most common majors to go into the honors program? I know we already mentioned that anybody of any major can do it. So I don't know if we have a specific answer to this question, but are there programs where we see a lot of students go into the honors program more than others?
I don't think so. I mean, I can say that consistently, I've always seen students from English doing the honors program, philosophy, but then, really, I think every single discipline. I haven't seen as many in business, but, there have been one or two. Yeah, so I wouldn't, it's difficult to say that there's any one discipline that's more suited.
And if you're interested too, on the OU source, which publishes all kinds of articles and things that are going on campus, there's always information about LAS, which we mentioned, Liberal Arts and Sciences Symposium, PRISM, which is a poster presentation event, and also about stories of students who go to conferences like Courtney and others mentioned, and research that they present. So you can always browse there a little if you're interested to see what our students are doing. It looks like we have answered all the questions in the Q&A. If anybody has one more that they'd like to send us quickly, we are happy to answer it. But it looks like we have addressed most of the questions. If you have more specific questions, you're welcome to email your admission counselor. They're happy to answer you, or if they need to check with Dr. Shrikhande, we can do that as well. But we are really excited. Hope you guys will choose to take advantage of some of these options on campus. If you don't do it your first semester, that is perfectly okay. You can always do it at a later semester, but we just want to make sure you are aware of your options, and that if it's something you're interested in, you know that it is attainable. Perfect. Does anybody have any last minute words of advice or anything else they'd like to offer before we finish up today?
I think I would just follow up on what Kelly said. To all of the students who are participating, feel free to even email me directly if you have any questions about the honors program. I'm happy to answer them. And you can find my email on the website.
Perfect. We have one final question. During the thesis presentation, who is present?
Oh, Milo, you want to go ahead?
On who is present at the thesis presentation?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't I haven't presented mine yet, but it's your entire chair, or like your committee, right? Like your honors committee is present along with a few other faculty. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So,
it's a very broad audience. So you have other Oglethorpe students, of course. So this is at the Liberal Arts Symposium when you present, and your faculty members are there, as well as often family members come, other faculty from the university who just are interested in seeing what the honors students are doing. But if your question is, we all have it's two-part. You also present, you also defend your honors thesis. And when you defend your honors thesis, then it's the committee. You have, not only you have a director for your honors thesis, but you have a committee of 3. So it's your honors director plus 2 more. And all of them are present at your thesis defense. And the thesis defense is open to the campus community. So I send out, once students schedule them, I send out emails to all the campus community about the defense, and people who are interested will attend. So I know Eli Arnold, our director of our library, is very interested, very supportive of the honors students, and makes it a point as much as possible to attend honors defenses. But sometimes students like their friends to attend, sometimes another faculty member is just interested in the topic and might show up.
Ooh, you guys excited? It's gonna be right around the corner. All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. As mentioned, if you have more questions, please let us know. We're happy to help out. Thank you to our students who joined us and shared your experiences. We really appreciate it. And Dr. Shrikhande, if you have more questions, just let us know. But otherwise, we will see you soon. Bye, guys.